Welcome to The Future of Care, the podcast that brings you insights and developments from companies in the tech sector that are making an impact on how we use technology to care for the elderly in our society, whether aging in place or in care home communities. And now for your host, UK Sales Director for Vayyar, a leading fall detection and smart health solution, Stuart Barclay.
Hi everyone, I'm Stuart Barclay from Vayyar Care, and on today's episode I'm delighted to have Stephen Cavanagh from Ascom UK join us. Stephen, welcome.
Thanks Stuart, nice to be here.
Stephen, do you want to just give us a wee bit of insight to who are Ascom and who are you, more importantly, in Ascom?
Yeah, no problem. So you said I'm Stephen from Ascom. I've been with Ascom just shy of 4 years now, and we're basically a global provider of real-time communication and collaboration systems. So we're one of the top 3 providers of nurse call solutions in the world. We've got over 1 million beds with our nurse call system. We have over 6,000 long-term care sites around the world. We're the leader at the moment in mobile communications within the care home sector, using our Myco 3 device to orchestrate the digital information that people are starting to use on mobile devices. So yeah, we're a big organisation, but I think we're also the best kept secret within care homes within the UK, because we're on our infancy. So as I said, we're 4 years into long-term care within the UK, but globally, it's 60 years worth of knowledge and clinical expertise within not just long-term care, but the acute sector, but also our enterprise team who cover everything else: channel, hotels, retail, basically anything you can think of that there's Ascom communication systems within them.
I'm going to kick off straight with the first question, Stephen, to be completely honest, and it's something I've used a lot, and I use it a lot with my customers and the care homes in particular, and asking, really, the pandemic's we've been through a tough couple of years. I think we've learned a lot. I'm always trying to take a positive from a very negative situation, I may add. But how's the pandemic helped Ascom and your customers change or design that care home of the future, or do you see it how the face of care will change on the back of what's happened in the last 24 months?
Yeah, first of all, it's obviously been a terrible situation for everyone. The challenges, the unfortunate deaths, the visitation blockages and things like that. It's been really tough, and the social care system has stood up really well in very challenging times. But I think it seems also sort of counterintuitive to say it, but there have definitely been positives. So like you're saying, that the movement and the willingness to adopt more digital technology, and that's being pushed through with actions that we're seeing now more and more within the sector. So obviously a great way a lot of clients and care homes were using digital technology was to keep family members in contact with their loved ones during the height of the pandemic. And I think this willingness to adopt the digital technology has led to people wanting to explore what can be achieved, but also not just throwing money at it willy-nilly, actually becoming more digitally mature and looking at the best way and to add more value to them as a business, but also to support their residents. And arguably just as important is to support the staff to make things easier for them as well. So we've been involved in a lot of projects both in the UK and globally, looking at supporting remote visualization of care staff with the residents, but also things like moving to more advanced elements as well. So we're seeing more and more of a willingness to look at digital technologies to increase transparency of care as well. So to support remote diagnostics and advanced monitoring, using wearables for vitals monitoring, but also the adoption of more technology and the IoT side of things as well. People are really looking to explore and maximize what they can do and how they can achieve it as well.
So, I mean, I suppose what we're talking about there, I mean, there's a big thing about the digital care plans, isn't there? And the digital care records that is striving out there. I mean, is that changing more to a more digital workflow, or?
Sorry, Stuart. I think it's a great point, because naturally the starting point and where you can get huge benefits very, very quickly as an organization is moving to digital care records. So a couple of customers we work with have given us examples where they've gone to a digital platform and they've gone from printing 1 million pieces of paper a year to actually completely removing that. But also by employing digital care records, it is changing the way people work. So you're right, it's starting that digital transformation journey, looking at how then using digital care records or EMR systems, we can then bring in more solutions that make it easier for the carers. So we like to look at this as what we call RTCC, so real-time communication and collaboration. So using that device that you're using for your digital care records or your EMR system and bringing in more functionality and more workflows to support the carers, but also it is about providing more time for the residents as well, because you're updating information at the point of care, but we're providing a more consolidated communication platform and bringing more information into the carers' hands to be more efficient and more effective. But also we're seeing more and more providers looking at utilizing the data that this provides as well, to look at designing those workflows themselves, and being more proactive in the way they are, rather than being reactive, which has been one of the major challenges as well during the pandemic.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do like the fact that, and it's interesting what you're saying there, and what I'm picking up is from that real-time collaboration and communication is you're communicating effectively with your customers, but it seems to be your customers, from the surveys and conversations that you have and your whole team have, they seem to be embracing that change to come back stronger and fitter from the pandemic and look at the care homes of the future. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, definitely, because there are obviously exemplars around where we work in the UK who are already doing marvellous work with technology and leading lights in terms of the way that they use technology. And I think what we're finding now is more and more care homes want to push on this idea of the future of care homes using technology, but we've got to be careful. There are going to be lessons learned. People are going to make mistakes, but it's hopefully that's not knocking you back, and you learn lessons from failure. Mm-hmm. So you can move forward and take the good and reinvent it and add in how it's going to benefit the organisation, how it's going to benefit the staff, how it's going to lead to more person-centred care. So, but I think what we are learning from the work that we're using is that there's a whole multitude of digital technology, IoT devices that really do add value, but it's how we orchestrate that is the challenge, and having that openness between providers in terms of technology providers to collaborate to enable best practice of the solutions. It has got to be one of the major ways of moving forward, and again, by having an open platform and integrating it, almost the key technology moving forward will be the orchestration software, and that is taking the information from all the devices and making it manageable and working for the care staff, working for the providers, but ultimately providing that independence, that dignity for the residents as well.
Well, that's obviously important. We can put a mobile device in a care home and we can put 100 apps on it from different IoT solutions, but really what we're talking about there is one login and everything reporting into one application.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is sort of one of the major challenges we have when deploying apps is remembering to log in. to multiple apps, because obviously this is now it's moving away from being a consumer device, and it's actually becoming a critical tool for the care providers. And if you forget to log in, whether we're doing integrations into nurse call systems, whether it's your communication platform, if you forget to log into something with all the multiple logins and passwords, then you're not going to be getting that information. So again, these little key tips that we've learned along the way of looking on that just simple thing, it sounds like a single sign-on solution, is actually a major indicator of success for care providers, because it's making it one point of origin. You log in and it opens up that platform. Your orchestration is there for your workflows, so it's looking at your the residents that you're caring for. You're managing those alerts. The escalations are built into that as part of it, but it's also integrated into your digital care plan, into your EMR system, into your alerting mechanisms such as the Vayyar sensors, your nurse call. Any other IoT device can all be brought into that ecosystem. So it really is important that we're sort of moving away from the technology and looking at the orchestration methods of the solution, really.
Yeah, communication at the end of the day is what it's about. It's how you communicate with the caregivers that are going to be attending these calls. No, that's great. You mean we at Vayyar Care, we've done a lot of surveys over the last 6 months, particularly the last quarter has been very good in the return of them, but it's all about the return of surveys, and they've been very thorough. One of the things that comes back, and I'm going to throw it out there, is falls, Stephen, and it's I mean that's the big one. What you mean? Our customers are basically saying that it's in the top 3 of bouncing back fitter and stronger, one of the top 3 agendas, apart from staff retention, which we all know is a massive challenge. So all the things you've talked about there will mean you can work smarter. That means you can allocate staff accordingly, etc. So you're helping with that, which is great. But the other 2 was person-centered care and fall prevention. Now, the key word there is prevention. So there's 3 dimensions to that, between detection, intervention, and prediction. Now, some of them are very, very difficult to do. And when I say detection, I mean hidden falls, trips, hazards, all these sort of things. Now, I mean, I've heard through the grapevine and I've seen it as well, that your new launch and your hard work that's went into the Smart Sense for Ascom, and that whole real-time collaboration, communication, all coming back into one central point. That's great. That's fantastic. How else do Ascom see they can help their customers with fall prediction and fall prevention fully? You mean, what else are we doing?
Yeah, so with obviously a lot of the stuff in the past has been around having a wearable device that's monitoring it for a falls detection. There are systems out there that look at falls prevention, so using data to analyze behavior patterns and things like that. But the challenge, I guess, is with a wearable device is obviously the charging of that equipment as well. So what we're looking at doing at Ascom is, again, it's all around that orchestration of the information coming from excellent sensors like the Vayyar sensor, and integrating that into a platform so that not only can we do the falls detection, and again via the Vayyar sensor, and taking the outputs from that and using that alerting mechanism to the staff, but again we want to integrate all the data that these sensors are creating and put that in a consolidated platform so that you can analyze this reservoir of data and become more predictive. And the terminology we like to use is predictive analytics. So you're actually looking at the data, analyzing the information from multiple sources within your dashboard. It becomes part of your workflow because you're analyzing the constant amounts of information, and then you can design your workflows around the residents' requirements, but all in the while moving towards more independence and again this word dignity for our residents. So again, there's been a lot of work done in over 30-40 years with acoustic monitoring, and that's been a fabulous tool for preventing your roundings, but we can incorporate acoustic monitoring into that platform and add in more data from the array of sensors that can be used. but then use it to give us more information and more data to design that workflow around the residents' care. But all that data needs to be orchestrated, but also integrated so that we're not having to go across multiple platforms. So again, the big thing and the natural area where this data needs to go is into the digital care record. And that becomes part of the staff's communication with one another on handovers. And we're building up more data, more evidence of care, but also the analysis part of the residents' requirements is all within that same data stream.
So basically, through your building blocks, whether that be modules from Nurse Call to your Myco 3 to your Smart Sense solution, and I don't know all your solutions, obviously, Stephen, but in the long-term care sector, you're basically the glue that brings this all together. Is that what you've tried to do for your customers?
I'd like to position us as being the enabler for staff and for providers. So we're now seeing a high percentage of care homes. It's around 40% of care homes in England using digital care records. And with the investment now coming in by 2024, the target is to have 80% of the market using digital care records. And you need a device to do that. So to enable to provide as much data at the point of care, we're using a device. But to add more value to that, we need to bring all the information to the care staff to orchestrate that care. So yeah, I'd like to see us as the orchestration piece, as the building block, and using that device to integrate multiple sources of data, but also enhance our communication, whether that be verbally via using the mobile device as a phone, whether that be through collaboration of messaging between one-to-one staff members, through groups of staff members, but all through automation so that we're not having to do this manually, it's automated. And we're seeing more and more around that automation as well, Stuart, in terms of the data being created, that the alerting mechanisms being automated, using sensors for staff automation. This is not new stuff, but it's bringing it into a consolidated platform and being the enabler of care to then empower the residents with independence, dignity, but also providing that reassurance to family members that their loved ones are being monitored and being cared for in the way that they want them to be. And it's opened the transparency of care as well for everyone, because everything's visible. We've got the data to support the care packages that are required for those individuals as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I embrace all that, but you're offering choice. I like that. And that's it. Especially with the financial constraints is another big issue that we got from our surveys. That care homes are going to be hit by, long-term care facilities are going to be hit by, and people at home, to be fair, the social care sector. These IoT solutions that we talk about, it sounds very high end, but it is quite simple, and your integration and into your whatever your platform is going to be, or your Mycos, whatever, for use is very, very simple. For your customers, it's quite challenging to understand it. What other challenges? I think connectivity, I think powering a device, I think actually making sure a phone's charged. And I think I've been very lucky to work for, as you were before you joined Ascom, very lucky to work for large nurse call providers, and we were very privileged to work at the top end of the industry. And moving into the IoT side of things, you can actually start seeing the issues with regards, are they going to charge that properly, or is the Wi-Fi good enough, or any connectivity, and how much does that cost, and all these things. How have Ascom overcome that?
Well, it's a really good point, Stuart, about the connectivity. I think we are seeing now more, and again, there's funding available at looking at having a networked solution. So we are becoming more and more reliant, and we're getting better quality in terms of our Wi-Fi networks that we're seeing in care homes. But I think that's probably the major investment, and that is a big challenge, obviously, for care homes to invest in that enterprise-grade network to support the IoT devices, to support mobile communications. And although that will be an investment, and it might be a big capital investment to start with, but it will have a huge return of investment in the long term, because you can bolt on these additional services and almost future-proof yourself. So little things like we're working more and more. So instead of having, analog lines in bedrooms, where you can use VoIP systems within the bedroom, so you're not paying costs of line rental and things like that. But again, because we come from a mobile communications background at Ascom, we're looking at the quality of service and guaranteeing things like that the voice is going to carry throughout the home if you're using Wi-Fi or DECT, or even if you're using cellular networks as well. We're also making sure that with an enterprise grade system, that alert management is there, so we can guarantee the alerts are going to the right people at the right time, and that they're actioned and there's no drop-offs. And also just little things like being able to make sure that if you're using, for example, your digital care record and an alert comes on, you don't close down that app. It works in continuation, so it's a nice smooth solution for the carers. So again, giving them more time to do what they want to do, not worry about opening and reopening apps or logging into things because they've shut down. But also, I think one of the benefits we're seeing now with our devices is that we have a truly hot swappable battery, so we can provide more return of investment on our devices, because you only need a device on a 1-to-3 ratio, for example, on your staffing levels. So it's one device per 3 staff members on your shift patterns, because you're just swapping a battery over every shift. So again, it's little things like that that are being considered by collaborating with our clinical teams and with our customers to learn how we can add value and make it easier for them to use digital technology as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree. So you mean, yeah, I'm very, very privileged to be sitting on a panel very soon at the beginning of March with regards to Care Home of the Future. And that made me think about these podcasts in an awful lot of ways. How do suppliers find out the development that's required from their customers? How do they do that? And that's why I've been very privileged to have these podcasts to understand. I like the fact of choice. I've always said that interoperability was a big issue in social alarm sector, but it was just as big an issue in the nurse call sector as well within Care Home. And I hope to see that lifting. And you mean, and is that something you're finding yourself? Because you seem to be able to, if I want a nurse call system, you can put the rest of your system around that. You're not bothered. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so one of again, at Ascom, we are an integrator, and we're interoperable with over 300 medical device providers, and that includes nurse call systems, but also interoperability and with your network providers and your voice communication packages as well. So it means that we're open to working with people. We're open sourced. We'll integrate, because at the end of the day, it's making it easier for our clients to access that information and have more time spent with residents applying care. So things like the nurse call systems, we can integrate all the nurse call systems to consolidate that information into one software package, so it all looks the same. It doesn't matter which vendor you use. So the usability across a provider, multiple homes, or even just looks the same on all devices. So it's just little things like that add value to carers. But then the additional benefit we can do by bringing it into a mobility solution is design those workflows, and instead of things like zones, for example, we can actually do true digital escalation and enhancements of the routes and the escalations of the nurse call alerts, but also the communication pieces, as we said earlier. So the voice communication, right down to things like staff protection, lone working solutions, can all be built in around the equipment that's already in there, or added with Ascom infrastructure. So it is ultimately trying to make it as easy as possible for providers and carers to not only start the digital journey, but be able to enhance it and build on it as they move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes back slightly, and we maybe jumped about a wee bit, and I do apologise, but that staff retention bit and where these smart devices, putting it all in one app. So everything you've talked about, all the glue, all the cohesion, all the integration, you've got your own nurse call, but you can use anyone's, etc., etc. All that is all about working smarter. Is that?
Yeah, because you're right. Staff retention is huge, and we know there's a huge, massive attrition rate anyway within the care sector. But obviously, Brexit and COVID have had massive effects on staffing levels, and the mandatory vaccine, although there could be a reversal on that, have added more challenges to carers. So if there's new ways of adopting technology to support staff, then that's fabulous. If we're going to have to potentially look at different ways of working, and technology being as an aid to the carers, not replacing them, but being an aid to enable them to make the most of it, so that you can have informed decisions. And I think mobility is becoming more and more common within the care homes that we're working with. And again, naturally, it's come around from digital care records, but I think people are seeing the value now of having more communication pathways through that. And again, as I said, that orchestration of all the data, so we can make informed decisions.
Yeah, so you can go back to the falls question. That fall prevention is predictions, and you're using data to say long lies, they've been in bed a long time, or they haven't slept well, so it's predicting that there's a high risk of mobility issue.
Yeah, and that's not the system doing that. You know, that the system's providing the information. The skill is interpreting the data, and that's the clinical judgment of the care staff. But what the challenge is for technology providers or orchestration software is making that as accessible as possible, but easy to use, so that we're not having to, print off multiple pages or access multiple dashboards. It's all in a consolidated approach, and it helps with the workflow of that staff. It becomes part and parcel of everyday life for them, using this information to be more predictive.
And that's sort of the questions I had for you, to be fair. And listen, Stephen, it's been great talking to you, but I do want to ask one question. How's Vayyar been to integrate?
So yeah, we're looking at doing a multitude of integrations on the Vayyar sensor. So if we look at it just as a pure falls detection element, our goal is, and this will be going live with our sites, is that we'll integrate that into our workflow orchestration piece. So again, just thinking from an end user's point of view, doesn't matter which nurse call system you've got, we're integrating that into our software, so that the alert management comes part and parcel with that nurse call system. And again, designing the workflow either around the nurse call system or around how the carers want it to be in the future, so that we've got that alerting going to the right handsets, to the right staff, and guaranteeing that through our platform. But sort of the long term, or short to mid term, I should say, but the long term projection is, as we said, using it as a prescriptive analytics tool. So building it into our SmartSense platform, which then gives us not only information of live falls or the early detection of falls, we're actually using the data from that in this reservoir, as we said, to build more behavioral patterns around the resident, so we can use it as early identifiers, but also bring that in with other elements that we're doing as well. So we're using things like clinical decision support software, which is using the multitude of diagnostic tools that are already in care homes, so blood pressure, heat, temperature, biometrics, whichever way the market goes, and consolidating that information into the care record of the resident, but then through the automation package, bringing in that alerting mechanism. So things like early warning scores will be done digitally, but also automatically through the system. But the Vayyar stuff for us, how I perceive it working, is giving us that enhanced data and information around the behavioural trends. And as your roadmap for the sensor develops in the future and offers more and more functionality, it just naturally comes, again, that building block comes into the Ascom platform for those providers. So we know that the type of stuff you're looking at is moving again into more preventative, and one centre offers a lot of solution, and that's where it just be incorporated into the current infrastructure of Ascom.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. Without sounding too salesy as well. So well done, Stephen. I applaud you for that, because this isn't about sales; it's about education. But importantly, for me, thanks to Neil for the introduction originally, Rob for all his support, Ed for all the work he's done up in the north, and yourself and all the team at Ascom for working alongside ourselves at Vayyar, and Nico over in the head office. It's been a pleasure to date, and I look forward to continuing the journey in changing the face of care in a lot of ways, offering choice to those care home operators and the residents, because at the end of the day, it's one small change can make all the difference to one individual. So Stephen, thank you ever so much for your time today, all your work so far.
I was just going to say thank you for the support we've had from yourself as well, and Vayyar in making it the integration a lot smoother. Again, we are an integrator, so it's nice to work with providers who are willing to share our vision as well, and see the bigger picture as well, which is great. So no, really appreciate all your support from everyone at Vayyar.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen.